Hey ladies and gentlemen, real quick before we start the video, I would like you to join my Discord. If you're a long-time subscriber or you just came here, it is a great place to not only talk to me and give me feedback, but to find some interesting things and talk to new people. So, if you want to check that out or keep up with my work, just go to the link down in the description, check it out. You don't have to, but with that out of the way, let's get right into it. Where to start? I think I got it. Let's say you are an insurgent fighting force. Chechnya, Grozny, 1995. You have a whole ass military fighting force coming into your city, and they have a lot of armor with men. And they got some of these. They also got some of those, and a lot of these. In contrast, you got a couple of those. Some spicy launchers, I guess. And none of any of this, and any of those, just don't have them. Forget about them. Yep, not that one either. So you get the picture. You got nothing except the head on your shoulders and the testosterone in your body. What do you do? Well, you could fight the enemy outside of the city, protecting the outlying housed areas to prevent access inwards. The problem is, you don't really have the manpower for this, and this asymmetrical situation is not a real mano-on-mano type thing. So you're going to have to think better. The quite obvious solution here is to split your forces into 4-man fire teams to pin enemy infantry behind IFVs, while a second team flanks and eliminates the vehicles from behind. In fact, this is so obvious that I can't believe you thought of anything else. Obviously, though, this was not your first idea. But it is the idea that the Chechens used and successfully implemented in the New Year's Eve assault. The Russians lost literally hundreds of APCs in one of the most disastrous combined arms assaults in history. Aside from that short history lesson, what am I really getting at? Well, if the Russians can't use APCs in cities, then neither can you. Much like the real-life guns of Russian APCs, in Squad, you can't get depression to shoot high enough inside an urban environment to get to the highest floors of buildings. You can only do that when you're playing infantry and you're on the street level. Past that, IFVs are really hard to get out of. I mean, really, try. Getting out in the middle of a street is a terrible idea when vehicles can't cover the top floors, meaning you can get fire almost immediately down upon your dismounting infantry. Sure, you could drive the IFV into an alley, but who knows where that will lead you, because you're basically just right on the doorstep of whatever residence you happen to bump into, which could be another recipe for close quarters disaster. So the problem here is what the Chechens implemented had Russian infantry pinned behind their IFVs and unable to maneuver, while a second team flanked around and destroyed the IFVs while the infantry had no clue what was going on. Besides being outmaneuvered, there are a couple other factors you gotta consider when going into cities. Mines, IEDs, and general unpleasantness await anyone who decides to roll into town making use of APCs by themselves. In a completely hostile environment against smart opponents, it is just objectively a bad idea. However, these are not the only lessons to be learned from the clever Chechens' tactics from that battle. First, small man ambush tactics made this battle such a success. Using small teams to engage from the front while maneuvering troops to the back was remarkably effective. You can implement this strategy fairly easily. You just have to shoot with an LMG to the front of an APC or a light vehicle, while another person with light flanks around the back. This strategy worked insanely well in my testing, and a typical reaction being dismounting troops on the ground thinking they were within a safe area and bolting to cover, while secretly they were being maneuvered against. Usually, it's best to land the first rocket before engaging infantry, because if you have the element of surprise and your guys are already in position, you don't have to wait at all. Just open up, get the vehicle damaged, add to the confusion, and then engage infantry at will. However, in the maneuvering idea, your number one focus should be stopping enemy infantry from spreading out, so you can allow clear rotations for your guys to move around and flank the APC. If you're able to get off a few shots, create that confusion, maybe throw a smoke, a grenade, something to displace the enemy, or get them back into their MRAP, that is amazing, because the gun will then try to search for you while it is secretly being completely flanked. However, keep in mind that a large part of what made this so successful is the coordination between small groups. Remember, if you're going to split your squad, make it into 2 small groups, as that is the easiest to control and the easiest to communicate in between. And now, for a short demonstration. These are not the only tactics that can be extrapolated, however. If you cannot secure any people to get a full complement, or you cannot secure the proper anti-vehicle devices, depending on how figuratively you take this advice, improvisation is recommended. Using IEDs to attack vehicles, and picking off as much infantry as possible before melting away into the background, is also a totally viable strategy. Using larger guns in concealed positions to get behind the enemy vehicles and try to penetrate their back armor is a significantly more risky attack, but it can also function. The point I'm trying to get at is don't limit yourself to the point. Conventional and trained forces using unconventional tactics are probably the most effective at them. Checkpoints, ambushes, and partitions made the early war of Ukraine possible. So if we're going to look at some more modern examples like Syria, I think we have plenty to choose from that can show small man, just very, very low amounts of people, can have a huge effect on enemy armor and enemy morale. So if there's one thing to learn from this, the Balkans have mastered ambushes and asymmetrical warfare much better than Mujahideen. And if we're going to continue in our kind of anti-terrorist role, we're probably going to have to adapt to some smarter enemies down the road. Now, I would like to end the note on a very don't try this yourself. It can be very frustrating to get the setup in squad, and a lot of games simply don't have the correct situations or the predictability that you need to set this up. However, I can recommend it for scenario games and possible use in real life, as not only do we have precedent for those, but I did have a very successful run of this using an event, a squad event that I attended. So, it's still useful, just not in probably pub play. Anyways, I'd like to end the video here. Thank you for coming. I hope you join the Discord. If you're new to here, well, I'm glad you stayed to the end. Anyways, MLZ, out.